Good evening, everyone. How are you? I hope you have checked your score by watching the videos of mock test. Many of the students have commented that how many scores they have got by solving the questions. So it's good actually. We are practicing each type of questions, not only the easiest, the moderate, but the tricky one. And there are a lot more coming for you. So stay tuned with the channel. And if you want the PDF of that mock test particularly, because the class PDF I have shared on the Telegram channel where the mock test will be for the members only, so you can join. So literary theory, many of the literary theories I have already posted and all the PDF I have shared on the Telegram, but few are left, so I'm going to discuss. Unlike earlier schools like formalism, we have structuralism, that everything we have discussed so far in the literary theories that are the important part of literary criticism. So, what is the reader response theory? That is also a question. The way we have discussed about the new criticism, Russian formalism, new historicism, then formalism, structuralism, post structuralism. After all these theories, there should be a question that what is the reader response criticism or reader response theories? Both are same. So in this video, we will try to redefine the relationship between the text, which is the part of the reader response theories discussion, the author and the reader. We will see that how an author or literary theorists have described the readers, authors, and the relationship between the text. What are their intentions? What should be the intention or the experience that a reader or author or the text should be interpreted by all these? Okay, so we will discuss everything in this video. Do share the class to all the students. Stay tuned and do watch video till end. Let's start the class. So reader response theory is actually a literary criticism that was emerged in 1960s to 70s. It was a reaction against new criticism and formalism. The idea of new criticism and formalism, we all have studied in the previous video that they said and they told us that we should focus only on the text. To interpret the meaning, to create the meaning, to find out the text meaning, you should focus only on the text instead of any other external background in the sense that whether it's about the author's intention, author's background, writer's background, any history part, they just asked all the readers to focus on the text is enough to create the meaning, but reader response theory totally completely refuse this. That means disapprove, discard, rejected, and said no. The reader responds, the reader is the only one who should interpret the meaning of a text. How? Reader is the only person who is responsible to create the meaning of a text. So they focused to the reader's role in creating the meaning of any text. This is what the difference between new criticism, formalism, and reader response theory or reader response criticism. They said that every reader brings their own experience, emotions, and context to a work of literature that actually helps and that actually shapes its interpretation. Okay? This was the argument of reader response, all the theories that are the part of this theory. So according to all the theorists who are the part of reader response criticism, they said that literature is not complete until it is read and responded to or responded by a reader. So that is why this theory is known as the reader response. Okay, I hope you have got the point. In a simple way, we can say since earlier ages, let me give you my example. Whenever I watch the old movies, I laugh a lot. I don't know, because the scenario, the circumstances, the prevailing cultures we experience in that ages, we find in those movies. So I find funny the way they act, whether it's a fight scene, whether it's any other scene, I find very funny while watching those old movies. And in other sense, we can say, so we can say that if we are not part of that ages, so we can say we have not experienced but in but while on the other hand, I am the part of this era and I am experiencing everything. I am the part of everything. I have experienced a lot in my life. So whatever thing I will face now, or if I will see someone suffering, I will see somebody's kindness, so I will relate. So in other hand, so I just want to tell you that while creating a meaning of a text, readers experience, readers emotion, readers response is important according to this theory. Okay, according to this theory, there are a lot of English, lot of movies. There are a lot of movies now these days. We all like those movies. Why? Because we somehow relate. And while on the other hand, the people who like our parents, our ancestors, our grandparents, who reject, they laugh, they feel angry. Why? Because they do not relate with the current scenarios. They give the example of their own time, that the movies that was made during our time was the best one. So there is the difference. There is the difference of thinking. There is the difference of the experience we find between the peoples, right? So here the most important thing that we see in reader response theory, that each individual has their own mindset to create or to find out the reader, to find out the meaning of any text, and everything we find in reader response theory, that should be based on each individual's their own experience, their own circumstances, though they somehow relate and they create the different meaning. So that is why this theory is also important to know. You must know that the meaning is not fixed. This doesn't mean, doesn't mean that meaning is fixed. Why? Because if I will say that me and my friend are watching the same movie, but I like the movie a lot, but my friend rejected it. She was saying that no, I don't like the movies, because she somehow judging the movies basis of on the basis of her own interpretation. Her she's judging the movies basis on her own preference. So there should be also conflict. So here reader also, you can say, divided. They have different response, they have different scenarios, they have different experience, they have different emotions, they have different taste. Okay, they have different taste. So I hope you have got the point. So on the basis of their own taste, individual try to find out the meaning of a text. This is what the reader response theory tell us to do, according to all the theories that are who are the part of this theory. So this theory actually argues that meaning is not fixed, and meaning is produced in the interaction. So here the reader response theories argued that, and they tell us that reader and text is based on the different people, different perspective, and that is why all these different people have a different meaning of a same text. Okay, same text, different individual will interact, but all those different people will create a different meaning on the basis of their different mindset, different experience, different perspective. Nobody can give the same meaning. Okay, so this is what the reader response theory actually teach us. Reader response theory is a school of literary criticism that emphasizes the reader's active role in creating the meaning of a text, not just creating the meaning of a text, but the basis different perspective of people. That is how the meaning is created and interpreted. Okay. So, what was the central idea of this theory? The text comes alive only when it is read by reader. There is no role of author. Okay, the reader's imagination, emotion, and experience complete the meaning of any text. So here, in short, text is a stimulus, and the reader is the meaning maker. So you can say the different reader is the meaning maker, because everybody has their own mindset and perspective to create the to give the meaning of any text. Key figures you must know: Stanley Fish, who was an American literary critic and a legal scholar. He majorly known for the concept of affective, stylistic, and the interpretive communities. Interpretive communities is very important, and therefore the exam. Interpretive communities here, that means the group of same culture, group of same age group of same people. Okay. For example, my grandparents, my parents like the same old movies, but me, my brother, my other siblings of the house reject those. So my parents have their own choice, they have their group, they have their own taste, they have their own preference. So on the basis of their taste, they are judging the text, judging the movies, but we are rejecting. So in this theory, Fish shifted the focus from individual readers to the communities or the institutions they belong to. Like you can see the academics, religious groups, etc. I always give you example. For example, there is a movie that is based on the religion. So you must be aware that all the particular group of people who are this part of the some religious group come together and oppose oppose against the movies, and they demand for ban. So that is the community. They come together. They have already their communities that they follow the same rule. Okay. There are many examples we have, like Padmavat came, then Jodha Akbar came, then a lot of movies you must remember. Then, according to Stanley Fish, interpretation depends on the shared assumptions of a community. That's the way I gave you the example of the religious group of people. They form a community. His major works include Is There a Text in This Class? The Authority of Interpretive Communities 1980 and Surprised by Seeing the Reader in the Paradise Lost 1967. Fish theory links language, authority, and interpretation, influencing both literary and the legal studies. Okay. So Fish emphasized the moment by moment experience of reading and the later the role of community in shaping the interpretation of the text. Work most important, Is There a Text in This Class 1980? You can read in detail. Affective stylist, what does it mean? This approach focuses on the psychological experience of reading and the shifting responses a text that evokes in a reader as they progress through it. While reading a text, how you progress your thought and give the meaning of all the work, this is what the affective stylistic, how you got affected by all the text. And interpretive act, I just explained you the interpretive, the community. Okay, remember, on the basis of they shared the same experience. Norman Holland, again, the another literary theorist of the reader response, who was also an American literary critic and psychoanalytics theorist. He majorly known for the psychoanalytic approach to reader response. Holland here combined the Freudian psychology with reading theory, suggesting that readers project their personal identities, desires, and emotions onto the text. What I have experienced in my life, whether it's a downfall or it's a success. So if I'm watching any movies, if I'm reading any text, if there is such a thing that I'm experiencing the downfall of the character, I will relate somehow. Okay. So this is what this theory by Norman Holland actually trying to tell us. Next one we have. Then further he says his most famous works are The Dynamics of Literary Response 1968 and The Five Readers Reading 1975. These works you can remember. He proposed that every reader recreates a work differently based on their own psychological makeup. I was the happiest person in my life, so I will judge any work on the basis of my experience throughout my journey. And there is a person who have been distressed, who have been stressful throughout all the life, whether he has seen any downfall or whether he has seen any success, the work is going to be judged by him on the basis of what he has experienced in his life. So this is what the psychological makeup of my mind, what I'm judging, what I'm thinking. This is I am trying to explain you by giving a lot of movies example or my experience, but while watching this video, how you are getting this point, it will be totally depends on your mind, that whether I am explaining this right or I'm saying this anything wrong. So if somebody will like my explanation, they will definitely comment that, ma'am, you are saying right, this is good, nice, well done. And if somebody discard that, no, each time you are giving the example of movies, how can this relate, how can this be true, so they will somehow refute that, no, there is nothing like that. So there is a different perspective The way, you can, a simple example in India, while watching the news channel, all the channel for the same news have the different interpretations, different breakthrough. Everyone gives their different opinions of the same news. In India, it happens a lot. So Holland's approach opened the door for subjective criticism connecting psychology and the literature. Okay, this work is important, so you can remember. The concept he gave us, the reading reflects the reader's psychological identity. Each person projects themselves onto the text. On the basis of what perception we are judging the text, Norman Holland majorly talk about that. Then another critic writer we have in the reader response theory is Louis Rosenblatt, who was also an American literary theorist and educator. Her transactional theory of reading is very important. There are many writers. Norman Holland is also part, gave the transactional theory. So Rosenblatt was one of the earliest voices to argue that reading is not a passive act, but a two-way transaction between the text and the reader. When the reader and text interacts to each other, what outcomes we find, this is what the transaction means. Okay. She emphasized the she emphasized the reader's emotions, background, and experience in meaning making. Emotions, background, and experience of a particular individual person, they are putting into the text to find out the meaning. This is what she emphasized on. Her influential work, The Reader and the Text, the poem, The Transactional Theory of the Literary Work, 1978, shaped modern educational approaches to reading. Okay, remember the point. Her theory bridges literature and pedagogy, encouraging active classroom interpretations. And the important work, you have The Reader, the Text, the poem, 1978. And in this work, you will find the transactional theory. Okay. The theory that she gave was if efferent versus aesthetic reading. She distinguished between two types of reading stances. An efferent reading focuses on the extracting information, while an aesthetic reading that centers on the personal experience and the feelings evoked during the transaction. While reading a text, which type of feeling you are arising in your mind, in yourself, your inner self, this is what aesthetic reading means. For example, you can take the example of catharsis by Aristotle. How we release our emotion by relating our emotions to the character. Then Hans Robert Joss, what he gave, he was a German literary theorist and the co-founder of the Constance School with Isaac, known for the reception theory and the horizon of expectations. Important this. Joss explored how a work's meaning evolves over time as it is received by different readers in different eras. I gave you the example of the ancestors, I gave you the example of the grandparents and the people who are living in the current scenario. So, on the basis of that eras, how the people are going to interpret the meaning of any text, any movies, or any other work, this is what Hans Robert Joss is trying to convey. Okay, so this is what according to Hans Robert Joss, this theory means. His major work toward an aesthetic of reception 1982 challenged static ideas of the meaning, okay, and he introduced the horizon of expectations. That means meaning changes over time with readers. That is what a reception theory means. So horizon of expectations refers to the historical and cultural framework that shapes readers' response, okay. Joss here in this theory emphasized that Joss emphasized literary history as a process of reception, not just a production. Okay. So in detail, if you want to understand the what is the horizon of expectation means, so Joss in this theory argues that each generation of readers approaches text with a different horizon of expectations, a set of cultural and historical norms that informs their reading. That is what a text reception and meaning can therefore change over time. Remember, I gave you the example of the word the fair. In earlier age, it was supposed to be used for the beautiful, but now this word is used to describe that something is good. Okay. Then another theorist we have in this reader response, Wolfgang Iser, who was also a German literary scholar and co-founder of the Constance School of Reception Theory in Germany. He gave the concept of implied reader and gaps. Okay. Iser believed that the meaning of literary text emerged through the interaction between the text and the reader. His books, The Implied Reader 1974 and The Act of Reading 1978, laid the foundation of reader response criticism in Europe. Okay, he explored the readers fill in textual blanks, interpreting what the text suggests rather than states. So Iser viewed reading as a creative act of participation, and he focused on how the text guides the reader's interpretive process through its structure. So here it simply means implied reader. When you keep someone in your mind and writing your text, that this a major part of the people is going to feel like this by reading the text. So that is what the implied reader. The reader is already in your mind and you are writing the text. For example, you can understand by taking the example of Salman Khan's movie the mass communication, you can understand, or the South Indian actor, you can take the example of Rajnikant. Whatever type of movie they create, the people who has a mass audience, they like, and the director who write the work, or you can understand the director who direct them, they will put a lot of actions, they put a lot of type of item numbers, they put a lot of witty, or you can say the lot of dialogues, so that audience, those particular audience who are the biggest fan of these stars, will definitely go and watch, no matter how, no matter what type of movie they will make, no matter what type of movie they will. They have given a lot of good movies, but most of the time you can say that the people are kept in mind while doing something like this. So, similarly, if you can take an example of Shakespeare, he has given us four biggest tragedy, and the people have become fan. And people judge, and they just heard the name of Shakespeare and they said that this is going to be the tragedy. This is going to be the tragic story. So that is what the implied reader means by the author when they kept the reader in mind and then write the work. Okay. Don't mind, I'm just giving the example to explain you everybody. So here you can say, Isaac view reading as a creative act of participation. Okay, so the work you can remember by him, The Implied Reader 1974 and The Act of Reading 1978, which is the important work by him. So gaps or indeterminacy, according to him, it is a literary text that contains indeterminacies, that elements that are not fully explained. The reader must actively fill in these gaps, a process that creates the work's meaning. That is actually a part of the text that requires the reader to fill or interpret. If there is something missing, that reader will be the responsible. Reader will be the person who will fill the gap, who will create the meaning, who will find out the meaning. And implied reader, I just gave you the example. Okay, this is the hypothetical reader that the text implicitly creates for itself, and the implied reader embodies the predispositions and skills necessary to comprehend the text potential effects. Okay, then here are the keywords that you can remember from this theory. Implied Reader by Wolfgang Iser, Interpretive Communities by Fish, Horizon of Expectations by Robert Joss, Transactional Theory, Rosenblatt, Psychological Projection by Norman Holland. So these are the important keywords, key theories that you can remember from the reader response. Okay. Here I have put the example also, and I gave you. So how this theory apply in literature? So reader response theory is a versatile approach that can be used to analyze various literary forms from poetry and novels to drama. So a reader response analysis of text often involves a close reading of the text, reflecting on how the text connects to the reader's own experience and emotions. It analyzes how it analyze and compare one's interpretation to others' perspective within a broader community. It considers how cultural background, gender, or other aspects of identity might shape the reading. Okay, so remember these key points of the reader response theory. I hope you have got the point clear. So this is what the reader response theory means, everybody. Remember one simple thing about the reader response theory or reader response criticism, that a reader is responsible to give the response of a work on the basis of their own individual emotion, experience, circumstances, identities of their own. Okay, it's a simple to understand. So how do you like this reader response theory? Do comment. If I have missed any part, you can simply notify me. I will share this PDF on Telegram. If you want, you can join the channel. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Do take care of yourself, and bye bye.